when it comes to law, one man that I always respect to listen to, because the guy sabi burishela the thing, okay, burishia, he go knock him down to the understanding of even the layman, even if you don't go school, you go understand them. Na Kenneth Okonkwo. Oga sabi law. Forget. The way he take the analyze and the break, you can also say this one sabi. Forget say if you know the price of this why they art film. Living in Bande, Pattern and Part 2, Merita Walla, Abonya Buria, Abo Andy, Maka Gedi, Maka Ego, Gedi, Ega Bara, Tafaka Andy, Maria, Danger, one, two. Forget say at all those movies. But forget to man don't do. See, if you watch it, if you are watching me now, and you sang this song those days, and you never marry, what is the color of your problem? Me inclusive. Yes, what is the color of your problem? You have old. That is, by the way, on a lighter note. Let go listen to Kenneth Okonkwo, because Kenneth Okonkwo. Now, for a matter, I hear say there is a difference between law and rule of law. Do you know before? Because of what they say, rule of law and law and rule of law. Oga, there was a difference. So there is a difference between law and the rule of law. You can say, as you take analyzer, bring them, put them together, smash them, grind them, use and cook better soup. We say, if you chop them, you go understand them well. Kenneth Okonkwo. You get some people who go give intelligence. So. Now, this kind of people supposed to be lecturer. How this kind of person want to lecture you? You go write exam, still go meet and say you want certain course. It's not possible. Because even if you don't understand what he teach, the analogy, the example, the explanation where him give, you go use and pass that course. Kenneth Okonkwo is one of those lecturers that they were born lecturers. I don't know why you know they within the 4 walls of a university or the classroom to teach. Don't help me listen to Kenneth Okonkwo. See whether it makes sense. Come to the conversation and drop your 2 cents or 5 cents. You are still allowed to call me a woman. Hey, you don't know the law, you don't know the law. Listen, hear it well, and be informed. Nobody knows it all. We learn every day. Learn it today that there is a difference between law and rule of law. Make it explain I give you. As it takes to the Supreme Court matter. Supreme Court judgment in River State. Watch this video. Can it is in our comment section. In Anna, go watch it.
People do not understand that there is a difference between law and rule of law. In Nigeria, we keep churning out laws every day. Nigeria is not lacking in laws. We have laws everywhere. More laws than even America, than any of those countries. But what we don't have is rule of law. And it's unfortunate. So when people call courts, and they say rule of law, sorry, no. The court does not give you rule of law. The court gives you law. It is only when the law, because the courts give law, because decided cases are part of our hierarchy of laws. Decided cases give us the legal principle that come out from a case. That is ratio decidendi. The decision of the court becomes part of the court. The judges are not there to make laws. The judges are there to interpret the laws. So rule of law can only be possible if the judges interpret the laws according to the wordings of the law. So anything that is their decision is law. But it can only be rule of law when the decision accords to the wordings of the law. When the courts use their own discretion to give judgment not in accordance with the wordings of the law, that is still law, because by our law any decision of the court is law. But that's not rule of law, because it will not be capable of performing the functions of law, which is principally to ensure orderliness in the society. For anything to become rule of law is not a system of government. Rule of law is an effective exercise, or a more effective or more better way to exercise authority. So rule of law is the effective implementation, interpretation of the law to ensure that the law performs the function of the law, which is orderliness of the society. So before the law can perform the functions of the law must accord to the basic principles. Basic principles. There are certain basic principles the law must conform to in order to be possible that that law will perform the function of the law. If the law does not conform to those basic principles, the law will not be effective enough to become rule of law. What are these principles? They are as enunciated by Longfuller. They are the 8 desiderata of the principles of law. These principles of law include 1. The law must be expressed in general terms. In other words, the law must apply to everybody without respect to the person. Everybody must be equal to the law. Everybody must be equal before the law, under the law, without discrimination. 2, the law must be publicly promulgated. There is in a democracy especially, there's no room for any law to be done secretly. You have heard at times the legislature will do something, you heard that it is smuggled. It is that may be law, but it will not be rule of law. Because if the people do not know what the law is, they can't obey it. 3, the law must be prospective. It cannot be retrospective. Because you cannot command a man today to do something yesterday. It's impossible. So the law cannot be retroactive. It can only be prospective. 4, the law must be expressed in understandable terms. It must be clear. It must be unambiguous. 5, the law must be consistent with each other. Not coming to section 1 and say something, and coming to section 10 and say a contradictory thing. The Supreme Court must be consistent in their judgments, not giving a judgment in this case, and in another case they are contradicting themselves. Because one of the principles of law that can make the law to achieve rule of law is that it must be consistent with each other. The next, the law must not require a conduct that is beyond the capacities of the affected parties. When a law gives or requires a conduct that is impossible to achieve, that law can never conduce to rule of law. Because we are human beings, we are limited. Then the law must be administered in accordance with the wordings of the law. I hope I've mentioned about 8 of them. The question now is, in all honesty, would you say that the Supreme Court judgments have been consistent with each other? My respectful answer is, I don't think so. The Supreme Court that said that the Plateau State House of Assembly is properly constituted by 6 members because the remaining of the other members have defected. It's still the same Supreme Court I'm hearing saying that it is an absurdity that a governor presented a budget before a 4-man House of Assembly when it was obvious that the other 27 have defected. The law is there by the Supreme Court. And if law are not consistent, they said it will be difficult for that law to perform the functions of law, which is bringing orderliness in the society. The other principle, the last one, which is the 8th one, is that the law should not be changed so regularly to make the subject not to be able to rely on them. You know, you have a law today. Tomorrow you say you have another law. Next tomorrow you say you have another law. That means when I sit down to plan what I will do tomorrow, I won't know what the position of the law is. So one of the 8, which is the final one, is that the law should be constant. The law should be constant, at least over a long time. So they even say that Wike at a certain point had 6 members of the House of Assembly. I'm not aware any code of law said it was an absurdity. You have to apply the law equally to everybody. You don't have to be changing the law every day. The law will not contradict each other. The law must be clear and unambiguous so that rule of law can prevail. So the reason we have too many laws in Nigeria and we are not orderly in Nigeria is because we don't have rule of law. And that confusion permeates all the arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. So my reaction to the Supreme Court judgment is, first of all, the position of the law is that Supreme Court judgment is final and should be obeyed by every person and authority in Nigeria. That is the law. So I am not in anywhere in this interview advocating that the Supreme Court judgment should not be obeyed. No. But we are trained as a lawyer. You can agree or disagree and put your points over respectfully. Now, the summary of the judgment is that the governor ought not to have presented the Appropriation Act to the 4 members, but ought to have presented it to the 27 members. Then, that's the election conducted by this Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. The local government election is invalid. This is the ratio from what I gathered. So, what it means is that the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission should go and organize another election. That's just what it means. So I heard some people throwing the arguments that there was one extension by the legislature extending the tenure of the former local government chairman. Extending. What did I say about rule of law? That was a legislative exercise of an executive function, and that is illegal. That's treasonable. What it is, what they are saying is like the National Assembly have the right, when we are not in a state of war, to extend the tenure of Tinubu without election. That's what they are saying. Can you see how absurd that is? The court has even struck down that portion of the something, if I can remember, as illegal. Because the legislature, you are saying you are for rule of law, and that's why I'm telling you that none of them is for rule of law. And you're saying that the legislature sat down and made law and excluded the Rivers State people from electing their leaders in a democracy, and you say you want to continue. Why didn't you go to court to mandate the governor to organize? And it's not even the governor that organizes election. It's the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. They are supposed to be independent. So why didn't you go to court to compel them to organize election? But you went to, and you say they have extended your tenure. No. When your tenure finishes, you hand over. If there is no elected person to hand over, then you hand over to the highest civil servant in that office to take charge until an election is done. You cannot replace an illegality with another illegality. The issue of the defection has not been treated by the Supreme Court. You can't infer. Courts and their decisions are done on issue by issue basis. If I recall, when they went to Omotosho, because that was where the case started, the issue was the appropriation bill, the appropriation law, whether it was legal to be presented to 4 members or 27 members. And the court said it shouldn't have been presented to the 4 members. Of course, I disagree with the judgment, citing the earlier Supreme Court judgment of the Plateau State and citing the fact that laws should not contradict each other, should be consistent with one another. That's what we call judicial precedent. And citing the principle of law that will make it to be able to perform the function of law, a law should be constant. I disagree with the judgment. But that does not mean that the 27 members have retained their seat, because the law is very clear. When you defect, you lose your seat. Section 109 1G. And these lawmakers defected, swore an affidavit that they have defected. Affidavit is one of the greatest instruments of law, because you swore. You can go to jail if you come and admit that you lied, because that's perjury. It's there in the court. The mere idea that they are denying that they did not defect meant an admission that they now realize that defection meant they are losing their seat. Courts check all these things. So the mere idea that they are denying they did not defect is a conclusive evidence that they know that when you defect, you lose your seat. So they have defected and they have lost their seat by law. And the court needed not to give an order before the defection is complete, because the court was not mentioned in that procedure that their seat will be vacant. So in my own opinion, in the eyes of the law, they are not members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. And the Supreme Court has not ruled on that, to my knowledge. And as long as that has not been ruled on, there's still a sword of Damocles hanging over their neck. And if we are a people that respect rule of law, meaning implementing the law, effective exercise of the law, giving life to the law, so that the law will be able to perform its functions of orderliness in the society, maintaining social order, then they are no longer members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. And any court that rules otherwise has destroyed the fabrics of the principles of law, which will not conduce to orderliness in a society. So I plead with my judiciary learned jurists, because I'm a minister in the temple of justice, and I have the duty to uphold the rule of law, that when they are giving judgment, they should please look at these principles and give judgments that are consistent with one another, that is clear, unambiguous, that does not admit a conduct that is impossible. How can you tell, for instance, a governor, for instance, that 2024 budget he has to go and represent it? That's an impossibility, because you are commanding him today to do something yesterday. It's impossible. It's against the principle of law that brings orderliness in society.
For over a decade, this has been the birthplace of innovation. Innocent Vehicles is a testament to resilience, employing international best practices to create more than just a car. Every vehicle here tells a story of durability, fuel economy, and safety. Crafted with the African spirit, the Nigerian heart. These vehicles surrounding me embody the unique concept of regionalization, each one designed to cater to the tastes and preferences of our people. From the streets in Nigeria to the terrains of the Sahara, these vehicles are designed for our roads, for our people. This is more than a vehicle. It's a symbol of our progress, our resilience, our collective success story. Your feedback drives us to continuously innovate and improve. Innocent Vehicle, the pride of African roads.